They all have tortoiseshell pattern. They all have tortoiseshell glasses. All of them. All four. Oh wait, are yours tortoiseshell?
No.
Oh. Oh, I think you might need to get some so you can match with all of them. Hanging in there.
Charge class right now.
Probably DE African American history.
This is Ambrose.
Yes. Yes. This only reason why I took the class is so I could have her. She's my favorite teacher.
Yeah,
She's a
good.
really, really good teacher.
Yeah, she is. I like her a lot.
Yeah.
She works, she's on the board of the Middlesex
This is,
Museum.
yeah.
With me.
Mm-hmm. Keep hearing little bangs. All those scores.
School board meeting will now come to order. I'd like to start off by acknowledging Veterans Day. We have two veterans on the board, Dr. Burnett and Mr. Thomas. Thank you for your service and what you have given to us as a community. Next, I would like to acknowledge and wives of either Thomas or Dr. Burnett, if they're here, and I would like to acknowledge any veterans that we have in the audience. Would you please stand? Okay, have one in the back. Mr. Robinson, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Now ask Dr. Burnett and Thomas if they would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go Navy.
Go Army.
All right.
That's coming up next month.
Okay. All right. Next do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Yes, I move to accept the addition of the minutes from the October meeting, the current enrollment spreadsheet, and a fundraising approval to the consent agenda.
Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Next, we have public announcements. Public announcements, okay. November, National Family Literacy Month, November the 11th, Veterans Day, November the 26th, end of the second interim grading period, November the 27th through the 29th, school system will be closed. December the 26th, interim reports issued. Did I say 26 or 6?
26, I believe.
Okay, December the 6th, I'm sorry. Interim report issued. December the 9th, early release of students and staff workday. And December the 9th, regular school board meeting here at St. Clair Walker at 6:30. All right, next we have recognitions. Dr.
Yes,
Sykes?
I have recognitions. I'm going to go to the podium for those, and I'm going to ask Dr. Bishop to join me and assist with recognitions. All right, awesome. So it is that time of the year where we recognize our first quarter navigators of the quarter. For this first month, we focused on positive learning environment. And our strategic objective for that is our division provides a safe and supportive learning environment that meets the needs of the school community. And so as we've done, we started last year, we shared our nomination form with our staff, our students, our parents, and our communities. And tonight we recognize 4 teachers and 4 support staff. We had a total of 49 submissions, and so there were other faculty and staff that were also recognized, and they will be get something from me in the pony in the coming week. So as I call your name, if you will please come down for your certificate and pins. Are the pins down here, Kim? Oh, sorry, not paying attention to that part. All right, and so this is tied to our strategic plan for 2029, charting our course, our positive learning environment. And our first recipient is Macy McNamee. Macy is our division-wide coordinator for gifted services. You get to stay up front. Next, we invite Heather Chapman to come down. And Heather is one of our 5th grade teachers at Middlesex Elementary School. Next is Haley Marchetti, and Haley is a 7th grade mathematics teacher. She is also the sponsor of our National Junior Honor Society at St. Clair Walker. A support staff person that we recognize is Jean Norris. Jean is one of our division speech-language pathologists, working primarily out of the elementary school. Kelly Cox is one of our Spanish teachers at Middlesex High School. Marcy Eberline is the school nurse at Middlesex Elementary, seeing over 600 students in that building, all not on the same day, but she stays quite busy in the nurse's office at the elementary school. Robin Lambert is one of our 2nd grade teachers at Middlesex Elementary, and she may not have been able to make it this evening. Okay, so we will get that to her. And then last but not least is Natoya Smith, one of our school-based substitutes at Middlesex High School. Let's see, Natoya, so we will make sure she gets that. We do want to get a picture of our navigators.
Thank you, Dr. Sykes. Next, we have educational highlights. Middlesex Elementary School.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Last year, our school spoke specifically to the board about the Virginia Literacy Act, and part of that task last year was selecting a curriculum. We shared that we had a committee that went through and looked at several high-quality instructional materials and curriculum that had been approved by the Department of Education, and at the end of the year, the focus group that we had together had landed on bookworms. So fast forward, we're in full implementation of the bookworms curriculum. And just as with anything else, we've had a few things we've learned over the past few weeks of school. And we wanted to share with you where we were specifically with engaging our students in the curriculum. And so our kindergarten team is here with us tonight to share with you some highlights of the bookworm curriculum and what implementation has looked like from their perspective, but also the experience for some of our youngest learners, our 5-year-olds and some 6-year-olds at the elementary school. I'll have kindergarten step up.
Hello, good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kelsey Eanes and I am a kindergarten teacher. This is my lovely team, Miss Jessie Bleeker, Brooke Balderson, Sherry Liverman, and Brianna Ursing. And so starting a new curriculum was a little daunting at first. It's taken a lot of teamwork, a lot of reading, a lot of time, but our students have really started to engage more within the last few weeks of bookworms. So, my clicker people, thank you. So our goal for the first few weeks was just really getting into procedures, routines, the whole back to school first few weeks. And then we were all kind of sitting around and we're like, okay, now that we're in the thick of it, how are we going to keep our students engaged? And so we started looking at the stories that are within the curriculum. And Miss Liverman, one day we were reading a story during our shared reading time called Paddington Goes to the Beach. And she's like, we're gonna have a beach day. And I'm like, okay. So she just very simply sent out a message to the parents and said, tell your child to bring a beach towel and with their snack that day. So during that time, they laid their towels out, they went to the beach with their smartboard screen on, and it was just a very simple way to connect the kids, but also make it fun for them while also attending to the story that we were reading. So then we started building on that, and we started going with a little bit of a room transformation. So you'll see on the screen, they went to Camp Kindergarten because we were reading Fred and Ted Go Camping, and we just took some tablecloths and turned the tables into tents for the kids. And Miss Balderson's daughter is one of my students, and I heard her as I'm walking, and she goes, this is the most amazing day ever. As she's like walking from her mom's classroom to my classroom. And so the students, they were just like beside themselves. They were all decked out. Our paras, we had flannels and jeans and boots ready to go camping. And I can honestly say I got the best responses from my students. So you can see one of my students, his text connection, and they were just so ingrained in what they were doing. So not only were we just making it more fun and engaging for them, but their rigor was still there. So making sure that that connected as well. Will you click so we can see some more? This was Miss Liverman's beach day and some of her camping day. We also threw in some s'mores in there because you can't go camping without s'mores. So these are just a couple of ways that we've really been trying to get our students to connect, but also understand the curriculum on a simpler level for them. Yep. And then this is Miss Balderson's classroom. They also incorporated some of their math time to this transformation as well, and you can see the kids building and enjoying their little snack, but it really only took a Dollar Tree tablecloth, and they thought it was just amazing. So not only with room transformations, but Miss Bleeker is our tech savvy guru on the team, and so she creates these very fancy, beautiful slideshows that we use for the week. But she's also created some things that go along with our curriculum. And so the students have become their own authors and illustrators. So you can see here where it says Pumpkin Day events. Our students are already learning what a subject and what a predicate is right off the bat. We're like, this is the who and this is the do, but we use the terms subject and predicate with them. And so that's what they were doing there, where it said the family went to get pumpkins. And you can tell from their illustration that they completely understood and grasped that concept. And then on the other side is Miss Ursing's friends. They did Ty's Travels, and they became little authors and illustrators there as well. And then we were able to incorporate some science, which was coming later, which leads to our next part. So in kindergarten, we really try to have like a field trip, and then we have the next day following, we have an exploration day. So you can see they went to the pumpkin patch. We had just read a story called Pumpkin Day from our Bookworms curriculum, and it was just an all-day exploration after. Holly Fork Farm is generous enough to always send us back with these huge pumpkins for each class, so we all have a pumpkin. If you hit the next slide, Miss Ursing's class, they got to investigate and dig inside of the pumpkin. They got to vote on how they were going to cut their classroom pumpkin out with their face, and we also did like counting collections to figure out how many seeds were inside of the pumpkin. So we are definitely trying to engage our students as much as possible and make it really stick with them, but they're doing a really great job. I don't know if anyone else would like to share anything, add to, but I think we worked really hard as a team to come up with different ways, and each month we're like jotting ideas down to help it to stick a little bit better. So that is everything for Bookworms and how we're trying to connect it all and keep our students engaged, especially with them being 5. So we take a lot of brain breaks. So if you walk by our room and you see us dancing to probably a Danny Go, that's why. But then they jump right back in, and they've kind of gotten used to that routine, and now I feel like we're able to build upon what they started in the beginning until now. So stop by anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. I did have the opportunity to actually go to the pumpkin patch that day with the 5th grade class. And let me tell you something. They were bouncing and jumping, and they had a pit of corn. And they got in that pit, and they had a ball. I mean, they were just as dusty as they could be when they come out there, but they had a ball. And well done, 5th grade. I mean, sorry, ooh, I messed up the date. Kindergarten class. All right. Next, we have public comments. All right, the floor is vacant.
Lori Gregory of Hartfield.
Good evening, school board members.
Good evening.
This is like giving a book report at school. My name is Lori Gregory. I've been employed by Middlesex County Public Schools for roughly 7 years. I started out as a substitute car driver transporting children back and forth to Richmond, and then a position came open as an aide on one of the special needs school buses. I love my job and the precious cargo that we're entrusted with in getting back and forth to school on a daily basis. What I'm not loving at this time is the amount of distracted drivers that are blowing through the stop arm and the lights on the bus. It's a scary time, you know. We're not letting children off the bus, obviously, or letting them get on, but it's just very frightening. This has happened 5 times for us so far this school year. We had one morning where a driver not only didn't stop for the bus in front of us behind the bus, and the third bus behind us. And that was up in front of the Crier Center. It happened to us twice last week. These cars are moving so fast, you can't get a driver's license plate, so you can't really report the red pickup truck with X and a 6 on the plate. I really strongly urge the school board to consider in the upcoming budget to get some kind of camera system in place so that these people are caught and ticketed. I'd really hate to have something happen to any of these children. And that's it.
I have a question.
Yes,
Is this mostly on General Puller Highway?
No. It's anywhere and everywhere. We've had it on General Puller, right there on the main, but then also beyond the Y and heading into Deltaville, twice there in the same week, up in front of Scott's garage. Yeah, and one of those days happened with Billy Eubank on the bus as a substitute driver with me that day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mike Nez of Locust Hill.
Mike Nez from Harmony Grove District. I just want to piggyback. Several people have talked about this already. It's just really disturbing to me when I think about it that public comment time was reduced from this time here and then at the end of the meeting. And the reason given was that we want to keep this because parents can then comment and then go home, or community members. But there was no consideration, there was no comments from the board, no questions, no discussion really when this was done. I don't know if there was conversation before the meeting, but it wasn't a conversation here. It was just presented. I think Mr. Thomas talked and gave a reason for why this was, he wanted to do this, and then that was it. It's just disturbing that you're restricting people from being able to talk, and I didn't see that there was a problem. There might be a problem with people taking too long. I still have some time left, but I didn't see there was a problem with too many people talking. I don't think there's ever a problem with that.
Dawn Moore, Urbana.
Good evening, board. My name is Dawn Moore. I currently live in Urbana. As Michael Nez has stated, I have objected to it since the first night it was done, changing public comment from the end of the meeting so people can go home. As you see, some people left, some people stayed. It's gonna come a time, because at home, I'm gonna wait to see what this video looks like, but last month when I couldn't be here, I couldn't see or hear nothing. So it's not like you're transparent, but I'll see what this one looks like. But you don't wanna hear us, it feels like, one. Then to come out with the ruling when you were asked to delay or consider allowing Middlesex clergy to speak at this meeting, because the Black Baptist Middlesex clergy does not live in Middlesex, but they have a big following here in Middlesex. Their families depend on them, and you came right out. made the motion and passed it without consideration, without discussion. So now Middlesex clergy that do not live here cannot talk here. I think it's wrong. So that's two ways you're trying to stifle us from talking, which is fine, because eventually it's gonna leave this room and then you're gonna find yourself in a place you don't wanna be. The next one, you have a lot of teacher work days. I would like to know more on what goes on in these teacher work days. I do go to my principal. I have steady conversations with her. I have no problem with talking to the principal. I do have a problem with some of the teachers. Their first thing is go to the FAR room. Go to the FAR room. You don't want to hear what the kid has to say, but go to the FAR room. You know, I have a very good relationship with my child, my nieces and my nephews, and some other children in the community. Go to the FAR room is not it for me. Absolutely not. You want to send my child to the FAR room? You better start finding a way to send your teachers to the FAR room. Because that is not what is, you're not educating my child in the FAR room. You're not teaching my child nothing in the FAR room. You are not showing my child any better, not listening and sending her to the FAR room. I have an issue with some of your discipline policy. I would also like to see us go back to you sending me a policy manual, because going on the website, one, I've told you from the beginning when you started changing it, sucks. I do not like the way you are upgrading the websites. I know that's what everybody's going to, but it makes it harder and harder and harder and harder to find stuff. But I'm not gonna sit here and print out a policy manual that you want me to sign. Thank you.
Davelyn Gresham, Saluda.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Okay. First, I want to give you props for the Silent No More conference that I attended. I enjoyed the team that presented the information. It was very informative. The only problem I had with it was not enough of the community was there to see it, but it was a very informative program, so thank you for that. I want to agree with Mike Nez and Dawn Moore. Both of those are very valid concerns. I discussed with my superintendent that having it at the beginning is very, it's not convenient for the people that work outside of Middlesex County. You have to be here before the meeting starts to sign up. And then you have to be here at about 6:15, 6:20 to speak, when the majority of the people were speaking at the second session anyway. So if you were gonna eliminate one, it would have made more sense to get rid of the one that the least amount of people were speaking at instead of the most. Because at the end of the day, you all are here to serve us. We vote you into office. We're not your servants, you're ours. And it seems to be you all have forgotten. And a lot of the policy changes that have been made this year have been focused on us rather than on the school. That's positive for the school, because it is positive for the school for the parents to come and voice their concerns, whether they're positive or negative, because they're all valid. Because you need to know what you're doing right, but you also need to know where you're falling short. So that's a very valid concern. And I looked on the notes that are out on board docs where you had the student ratio for teachers. What I saw missing and what I spoke about last month was the ratio of special ed teachers to special ed students. That is not represented in your report. And that's a problem, because there are not enough. And these kids are being mistreated, mishandled, and they're treated in a different way than the other students. They're supposed to have equal opportunity to have an education, and Middlesex County is not providing it. So when you look over your report and you want to present information to us, please make it complete so that we have the total picture and be honest about it, because that was not fair. I spoke about it last month, and I haven't heard a peep out of anybody about the concerns that I raised. And that's a problem. You all get in here and you say nothing. Policy is presented. We hear no argument from anyone. My time is up, but I think my daughter's going to give me her minutes. Thank you. My daughter put my minutes in.
Okay, all right, but
But what?
that the 3 minutes, you cannot transfer 3 minutes anymore.
When did that happen? Because the last I heard, we could give up, if somebody else gave up their time to speak, you could have their minutes. So when did it change?
It all changed on the same night when we removed the second public comment.
Oh, so y'all, once again, and let me say this before I leave, I will gladly sit down. But these policy changes that you make, that you hide in the policy, you don't bother to say it when you're in the meeting, you don't print it out so that we can see it, you want us to dig and see what the changes are. If you're gonna be transparent, have the decency to let us know what the changes are. Thank you.
That's it?
Public input is now closed. All right, board member comments. Tiffany?
The Middlesex Foundation did not meet last month, but we are meeting on Wednesday, and from what I understand, there is some good news in the funding situation for affordable housing, so I'm excited to hear what they have to say about that, so if you want to come.
Dr. Burnett?
All of my meetings are in the future. Tuesday, the 19th of November, Tommy and I are going to Spotsylvania to a legislative breakfast at 8:30. We'll be up early. Also on the 19th, there is a scheduled joint Chesapeake Bay Governor's School board meeting. On Wednesday, the 20th, I will be attending the VSBA conference in Williamsburg. And on the 25th is our next school construction meeting.
Thomas?
I attended the Bridging Communities board meeting. I gave everybody a handout that they could look at. On that first page is the breakdown of the different counties and what classes each enrollment is. So like if you look at M for Middlesex, can you?
Yes, thank you.
So you can see we have 26 currently enrolled. We have 30 allocated seats. And the main thing that we were discussing at the meeting was Charles City, which would be CC. They have 9 currently enrolled and they have 23 allocated seats. So they're looking to readjust our seat allocation for the next coming school year in 2025. And if you go to the last page, you'll see the options that were presented to us. And so the option 2 is the one that we discussed that we're looking to try to implement. And I want to see if we could possibly do a vote on it next month. Basically, it would change our seats from 30 to 34, and it would change our price per seat to $5,246 per seat, but it also would change our total budget about $5,000. And we get 4 extra seats in the coming year. Pretty much all I have on that one.
Jenny?
Last Tuesday, Dr. Seitz and I attended the regional special ed meeting, and it was short and sweet, and I guess no news is good news, as the program is moving very seamlessly at this time.
And I have nothing to report at this time.
Student rep.
Next.
Student rep.
Mhm.
Student
Oh,
rep.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I came prepared this time. Well, tomorrow, our varsity volleyball team is competing in regionals against Rappahannock at 6 o'clock, and it should be a really good game, because we beat them both times, but we'll see. Last week, we inducted 13 new members into the National Honor Society, and then in October, we inducted 17 new members into Spanish Honor Society. So far, 4 seniors have verbally committed to play sports in college, which I think is quite impressive. And then my last thing is that I think that the phone policy right now is working well, especially in the high school. I feel like it's relieving some stress off of the teachers to not have to monitor childish behavior all the time. And that's all.
Okay, I apologize for that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Got notes. It's all good.
All right. Next we have is some action items.
Yes, we have one action item, and that is the budget calendar for our work on FY 2026. It's the same schedule that we used last year. We just obviously changed the dates to meet this year. Ms. Murray and I have coordinated also with the county on some of those dates that are joint sessions, and so I bring that to you for your approval.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. All right, next we have information items. Dr. Bishop?
Yes, I'm going to yield my time to our principals. They'll be discussing the navigation plans. And Ms. Fleet, Dr. Sanders, and Ms. Daniels are discussing the strategic objectives and the focus areas for each school. And it's really based on their comprehensive school improvement plan. And the comprehensive school improvement plan is tied to our strategic plan. So we're really working hard to tie all that together. And Ms. Daniels will be speaking for Middlesex Elementary School.
And we should also have a slide deck for
We
you.
have a slide deck too. Dion, we have a slide deck?
No, I think it says navigation.
Navigation?
It's a Canva, right? It's a Canva.
I think if you send it in Canva, he can't open it. It needs to be downloaded.
Does he have it? Does he have it?
He may not be able to open it in Canva.
Board members have it in their packet? No.
if they can't get it, we can go, because it's really just talking points that they're going to discuss more than looking at some bullets. Do you want to? Okay.
Motion to share.
I feel like I'm the elementary level. I could have done like an interpretive dance or something for you guys. I could have acted this all out. Here we go.
All righty.
All right. So our overall, we're going to share with you some of our focus areas specifically to each individual school and some of the strategies that we've put in place to support those. Of course, these are our strategic objectives as a division, so we're going to highlight for you that deeper learning, positive learning environment, capacity building, and then community engagement. So our focus areas really stem from the data that we collect throughout each school year. Typically, by the time the spring rolls around, we already know what areas we're focusing on for the upcoming school year, and we may already have that in mind at this point in the year. But specifically to the elementary school, our data suggested a need for there to be a focus on improving student outcomes for all students in science and students with disabilities in mathematics and English. There was a need for improving self-regulation skills, decreasing incidents of disruptive classroom behaviors, focus on identifying reasons for student absences and implementing strategies for improving student attendance. We wanted to ensure we were providing staff with high-quality professional development and the ability to strengthen their instructional practices and their understanding of the curriculum and instruction. And as many of you know, there have been changes in curriculum over the past few years, so that has been a priority for us. And then finally, we wanted to focus on engaging our families and community members as well as stakeholders in our students' social, emotional, and academic development. And Dion, if you could hit the accept all cookies at the bottom. Thank you. So specifically at the elementary school, what does that look like as far as strategies? One of those strategies are multi-tiered support system, and that's for academics, but also behavior. Specifically in the area of reading, we have focused on incorporating, of course, a bookworms, a curriculum that was considered to be high quality for all of our students. K-3, 4-5, we still had the ELL curriculum in place. But we also looked at layers of support. So Title I reading intervention services was something we were already making available to our students. We have 2 Title I reading interventionists. But this year, those students also each have a reading plan. New this year with the VALS assessment, which MES piloted last year, There's now a winter benchmark that allows us, if there are students that fall high risk at the winter benchmark, we can also provide them with Title I reading intervention services. Historically, services were identified in the fall, and unless there was data that suggested throughout the year, those students received those services for the duration of the year. So now this allows us flexibility. If we have students in the winter who are no longer in need of that service, we can move them out of the program, or vice versa. If we have students in the winter that now need that service, we can move them into Title I reading services. We've also continued, this is the second year with Ignite Reading Tutoring Program. Last year, as you recall, we did an all-in tutoring program after school, and that didn't allow all of our students to access the tutoring. We've now built that within our daily schedule, that intervention time, so our students have that time with the tutor built into their daily schedule. It's not something where they have to stay after to get additional support from anyone. Math specifically, we focused on using the intervention and support of Dreambox Learning, which allows us to use the data that we're collecting, such as through map data, to tailor lessons to identify gaps in students' learning. We've also ensured that we have a daily intervention block for mathematics for our students. And then when considering students' social emotional needs, school-wide, this has been a year of implementation of the Zones of Regulation model. Our staff have been focused on teaching students how to identify their own emotions and what happens within their day to put them in certain zones. We've got small group counseling in place. We partner with several community organizations to provide more intensive counseling for some of our students within the school setting. Again, removing that barrier of having to go somewhere or transport on the parent outside of school hours. We also have utilized some of the resources provided to us through parentguidance.org to provide support for some of our students as well as some of our parents. And we've partnered with TTAC, William & Mary, to provide a lot of professional development today, specifically with the early dismissal schedule that allowed all of our teachers and our paraprofessionals to participate in professional development with TTAC. They came in, met with our staff, and went over regulation strategies to use within the classroom, and then gave staff an opportunity to actually engage with making those items to carry back into the classroom to support their students. Professional development, focusing on inclusive practices, collaborative teaching, and supporting students with disabilities is another strategy we've employed this year. Again, partnership with William & Mary's TTAC, we have been able to schedule monthly meetings with TTAC to come in and meet with our special education teachers. And now on our early dismissal or days where we have professional development, they're able to come in and meet with all of our staff to really focus on how to best meet the needs of our students with disabilities in the general education setting and provide more inclusive opportunities. We also have monthly collaborative meetings and quarterly data meetings that focus on identifying gaps in student learning and planning for instruction. Additional professional development outside of focusing on supporting our students with disabilities, our staff K-3 with the implementation of bookworms began that training over the summer. That has continued because those teachers that were trained asked for additional focus group to meet throughout the year. So sessions have been planned for after school hours with teachers. Visible learning for our mentors and mentees focused on student engagement has been taking place on our teacher work days. And the Virginia Literacy Act models our teachers have been engaging in either after school hours or during teacher work days. One of the strategies we focus on is how can we improve our communication with families and staff, as well as providing students with lessons focused on overall health and wellness. Specifically at the elementary school, we find that a lot of our absenteeism comes from illnesses, surgeries. We're in that unique time where you're getting tonsils removed, you've got a lot of strep going on, and unfortunately our littles tend to not understand how to mitigate and how to keep those germs from spreading. So our nursing staff, our school nurse has collaborated with our physical education teacher to provide lessons to our students specific to wellness and hygiene. We've also made sure that within our communication to families, which we call the COLT headlines, it's a newsletter that goes out weekly, we have the Health and Wellness Corner. So it shares with families strategies for helping to prevent certain illnesses. Within our own staff communication, our clinic, our nurse sends out every week communication to our staff that outlines and highlights, here's what we're experiencing as far as illnesses within the school setting. And then here's some of the things you can do to help with mitigation of that. In addition to that, we have had attendance meetings with families where we have found that some of our families just need additional support with some strategies to help establish daily routines and visuals for their kids to help with the morning getting up and going through what you need to do each morning. So we have utilized those parent guidance resources to provide families with additional support for improving attendance. We've also created mathematics, reading, science, social studies, SEL, and special education focus groups. Unfortunately, our calendar doesn't have enough time to squeeze in everything in those work days. So these are meetings that happen once a month after school hours with our staff. We have breakout sessions where it allows them to look at updates from the Department of Education in respect to curriculum. Those focus groups are designed so that there's one grade level representative to allow for some conversation about vertical alignment of instruction, and our specialists throughout the division also facilitate and lead those. It's also an opportunity, especially with, for example, our SEL group implementing the zones of regulation. It gives time for our faculty to reflect on what has been put in place and what needs to be addressed or improved upon moving forward. And then finally, our final strategy was really focusing on partnerships with our community partners. We have some wonderful resources within our own community. And so we've had the opportunity to really engage with the 4-H extension. Recently, they worked with our second graders, and all of our second graders had an incubator in their classes, and they got to hatch baby chicks. They enjoyed naming the baby chicks and watching how that cycle evolved, but then also how their little personalities developed. So the kids enjoyed that experience, and it was nice to have someone who was really an expert in that area come in and guide our teachers through those lessons too. Friends of Rappahannock recently worked with our third grade students to plant trees native to our area around MES. And so part of that process went along with the science curriculum and really understanding plant identification. And so they enjoyed that. Of course, Fairfield Foundation and the Oyster Festival Marine Legacy have been great partners, and our fourth grade recently had the Middlesex museums out to provide some primary sources for students to explore and learn more about. We continue to utilize some of our social media platform to provide instructional highlights into what's taking place within the school setting. And while it may not be perceived this way by the community or may not be understood, but we're very intentional with our trunk or treat each year too, to try to include community partners to make connections for some of our families who may need certain resources. And so that was a well-attended event for us here recently in October. If there are no questions, I'll turn it over to St. Clair Walker.
Any questions? Okay.
Good evening. As Ms. Daniels said, we review our data each year, both qualitative and quantitative data, to assess our focus areas for each school year. And you can see that St. Clair Walker is focusing on increasing achievement for all students in reading, writing, and mathematics. And we do this by looking at SOL scores, MAP scores, and classroom scores, classroom assessment scores, to see how we can increase achievement across the board. And we try to involve students in goal setting so that they can take ownership, as you'll see in a focus area later on. Kind of being more specific, we are also focusing on increasing growth for students in the area of reading and mathematics for students with disabilities, really honing in on those areas of growth that are needed to fill in gaps and to ensure that those students are making the growth targets. We're also focusing on increasing student ownership of academics, attendance, and behavior. All three of those items go together. We're here at school to learn, but also we have to make sure that they are attending school, and behaving while they're in school. And a lot of that has to do with encouraging ownership of it all. We all want student success, but we can't want it more than the students do. And I will say that we've been working closely with our school's counselor to encourage students to find their own spark and find their own passion. Oftentimes when you're talking to a middle school student, they're not quite sure, why are we doing this? Or, I don't really care. What does this mean to me? So one of the things that Mrs. Teagle has been encouraging students to do is reflect on what is your passion? What is your spark? What gets you excited? And if we can find that sense of ownership, we will see an increase in achievement in the areas of academics, attendance, and behavior. We're also focusing on supporting staff to create engaging classrooms for all students. We have a variety of subject areas. We have a variety of talented teachers. And we want to make sure that we are providing our teachers the opportunity to grow. And when we ask them to make their classrooms engaging, are we providing them with techniques they can use, such as total participation techniques? And we'll talk about some strategies that we're using to do that in just a minute. And lastly, we're talking about or focusing on collaborating with all stakeholders to increase student engagement. That means parents, community members, volunteer organizations, because it truly does take a village to raise these students. And if we can all collaborate together, we can increase student engagement across the board. When it comes to strategies on these focus areas, in order to increase student achievement, we really looked at our WIN block. And WIN block stands for what I need. And I often tell students it's not what I want, it's what I need, and it's based on data. Again, we look at SOL scores, MAP data, and classroom assessment. And what we did this year, to be really specific with WIN block, we pre-assigned students their academic needs first, and then they signed up for clubs. And our teachers are amazing about trying to find a balance so that we can still have students participating in some club activities, and then every other Friday we have our Hawk Circles, where we focus on some of the character building skills. And I will say that revamping WIN to be really specific and looking at what each particular student needs took some time, but it's paying forward right now. When it comes to increasing growth for students with disabilities in the area of reading and mathematics, we're using some specific programs such as Ignite, Lexia, and Building Thinking Classroom Strategies. Ignite is a one-to-one reading program where students log in daily for 15 minutes and they have a one-on-one tutor. And it really identifies the areas that need to be addressed when it comes to reading strategies. Lexia is also a program that students use for reading, and teachers can actually pull the data and then find specific lessons to give to students to identify their specific areas of need. When it comes to building thinking classrooms, we put this as a strategy for improving growth with students with disabilities, but really this is across the board. And I had the opportunity to attend a conference this summer where they focused on building thinking classrooms. When it comes to building thinking classrooms, it's not just about providing the right answer, it's having a picture to illustrate the thought behind it. And I can tell you that Dr. Walsh and Ms. Marchetti will not participate probably in another thinking activity with me because of oranges that we worked on this summer. But that was one of those strategies where I had a chance to learn what it's like to struggle productively, to draw my answer and have to think on my own and then collaborate with my group to find an answer. And it shows that not everything comes naturally, not everything comes easily. And having a picture to illustrate your thinking really does help. One of the things we're doing to increase student ownership is recognize and celebrating student success in the area of academics, attendance, and behavior. Just a few weeks ago, we awarded perfect attendance, and while we recognize perfect attendance is not always possible, we did want to celebrate those students who had maintained perfect attendance through the first quarter. For the second quarter, we will still recognize perfect attendance, but we'll also recognize those students who have improved their attendance over the quarters. And when it comes to celebrating academics, we've completed the first quarter, and as of this Friday, we'll complete the first trimester, so we will recognize honor roll students for both first quarter and first trimester. And when it comes to behavior, all grade levels have now been issued SOAR cards, and students receive SOAR cards based on their behavior, focusing on the characteristics of safety, ownership, attitude, and respect. When it comes to increasing engagement in the classroom, we are really trying to seek input from staff about their professional goals and how they can increase student engagement in their classroom. At the September faculty meeting, we had teachers set goals about what they wanted to do to increase student achievement or student engagement. We said, be creative. It's okay to fail forward. Try something new. So each teacher wrote on their index card their goal for student engagement over the next few months. At the October faculty meeting, we reviewed that goal and said, okay, Were you able to meet that goal? If not, what were the barriers and what can you do to meet that goal this month? And we're continuing to offer specific support to teachers in that area. When it comes to collaborating with stakeholders, one of the key points is informing and educating parents of resources to support children academically and emotionally. And one of the first things we do is we ask parents to be involved. We ask, are you a Canvas observer? So we've been trying to really make sure that parents can see what their students are doing in each of their classes. And sometimes technology can stand in the way a little bit, but once parents are logged in, you can see what your child is experiencing in each of their classrooms. We're also educating parents of our resources that we have available, such as parentguidance.org. And we are also continuously engaging with our community partners. We were very fortunate to have the reality store here a couple of weeks ago, and we had quite a few representatives throughout the community supporting us here through that. So those are our focus areas and strategies for St. Clair Walker Middle School. If there are no questions, I can pass it on to Mrs. Fleet.
Do we have any questions?
Thank you.
Good evening. The focus areas at Middlesex High School continue to be improving our student performance in all academic areas for all subgroups. Our teachers and students worked incredibly hard last year and the years prior. There were no significant gaps in any of the subgroups, but we don't stop. Obviously, we want to keep pushing higher, over 80 and 90%. We want to improve student daily attendance. We were a level 2 with chronic absenteeism. And so our goal is to look at barriers, and we can help support families with that and provide supports as needed and encouragement to our students. We want to provide opportunities for staff to coach each other in effective strategies to support student success and provide engaging lessons and promoting research-based professional development opportunities for all of our teachers. We do partner with TTAC and other organizations, particularly our special education department, to get their expertise. But we have some amazing teachers right in our building who are able to coach and model for their colleagues, particularly some newer staff who need that support. And so learning from a peer is sometimes even more beneficial than learning from someone from the outside. We want to continue our partnerships with community businesses and organizations so that we can grow our internships, job shadowing, volunteer opportunities, and future employment for our MHS students. And for our strategies,
You have to use the clicker.
Thanks, Lana.
You're welcome.
We have monthly department meetings to look at our student data and how our students are performing. We also have weekly meetings with administration and counseling to look at students' performance and get the students involved so we can catch problems before they get too big. That involves making phone calls home to make sure that our students are on track for graduation. That's in addition to meetings that our staff have on their own, whether it's department or subject specific. For example, today during the workday, I sat in on 3 of our Algebra 1 teachers working collaboratively after the students left to work on some lessons, look at each other's students' progress, and give each other support and some goals to work on and some other strategies. Our English department met with the literacy specialist to look at where they're on track with very specific strategies they're teaching. Our teachers in the English department, all of them use the same strategies in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade for teaching writing. It is a very strategic, purposeful event, and for teaching reading. So our students are getting this year in and year out to build their skills so that when they get to the assessments in 11th grade, they will be successful. Our daily attendance tracking, communications with our families and our students, monthly sessions where we give rewards for good attendance, greeting students each day when they come in the door, and it's a group of us who are greeting them. And then fostering relationships between teachers and certain students. Some teachers gravitate towards some students gravitate towards some teachers in the high school, and we want that to be a go-to for them if they need some support and encouragement to get to school. Relationship building is the #1 thing for kids to be supported in school and to do well in school. And then it's our role as admin to schedule time for our staff members to be able to observe their colleagues and go in and see them modeling successful strategies for them. We provide professional development opportunities for our teachers. We put it in our weekly newsletter of all types of things that are coming out from around the state. And specifically, special education team is working with TTAC most directly on collaboration in the general ed classroom and how they can support us. And back up into data, we also have our special ed teachers trained in the BLA in the reading strategy. So not only do students get reading instruction in the classroom, they also get small group reading instruction, and we do small group instruction within the regular classroom in addition to pull out. And then finally, our CTE special education staff, Compass Academy with Ms. Norris' support, are building more and more partnerships with our businesses and local organizations so that we can get our students out in the community, also get those organizations in to support our students so that we can grow those opportunities for our kids every single year. And we have quite a few students now who are interning, job shadowing, and working from Urbana and Saluda all the way to Deltaville.
I was busy climbing the ladder, so I'm going to borrow Susan's notes over here in reference to focus areas. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Danielle Norris. I'm the director of Compass Academy and Virtual Learning for Middlesex County Public Schools. And I'm an administrator that partners with Mrs. Fleet. For Compass Academy, we are a flexible learning extension program of the high school. So we run a very targeted program to address all of the focus areas that she mentioned here. We typically have anywhere from 8 to 15 students at a time that flex in and out of our program, and most of those students are at risk for one reason or another, whether that is on-time graduation, truancy, or just general disengagement from school. We work to relationships, like she said, are the root of our program, and then also building relevance into our program. We know that not every kid is made for a traditional setting, and so we try to offer an extension program where we can provide personalized pathways for students using online courses, but in-person coaching, mentoring, and volunteer opportunities. So we have partnered this year with the Lions Club. We partner with Backpack Buddies, the Crier Center. Kiwanis is a great partner of ours. We've partnered with 4-H in the past, the YMCA, and the Science Museum of Virginia. We are constantly trying to build upon those organizations to make sure that our students are prepared for life after high school. And then following up with those relationships too to ensure that we have successful community members here. So we are happy to collaborate and work together to make sure that we are attacking all of those focus areas throughout the year and for years to come.
Yep. Like we talk several times a week, work with these students on the academic part as well. Like if there's a need for a student at Compass to come to the high school to do some remediation or testing, then we can accommodate that. She's very flexible with the schedule, so we are able to do that within the school. It works great. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. All right, next we have staffing ratios.
Correct. This is an annual report on staffing student to teacher ratios as required by Virginia law. Our ratios go from 12.1 students to one teacher. That's at the MHS CTE classes, and larger classes up to no more than 24 to 1. The MES, Middlesex Elementary School ratios, do not specify when students are pulled out in small group or in different settings. The ratios don't include special education teachers inside in that inclusion collaborative setting. And the ratios do not include off-site placed students, students who are participating in Virtual Virginia or pre-K, or self-contained special education students or Compass Academy students. So this is a report. It's very in line with previous years' data, very consistent. So if there are no questions on the student teacher ratios.
Do we have any questions? Okay. Next we have cell phone regulations, JFC-R2.
Yes, and so it's an information item because we're adding it as a regulation. As you're aware, we put into place new cell phone protocols this year at the beginning of the year that were very much in line with Executive Order 33 that came from the governor's office. Since that implementation, our administrative team has reviewed the guidance from BDOE as compared to the protocols that we put in place earlier. We made a few slight changes, and we bring this to you this evening as a regulation that's being added to policy JFC. So because it's not a new policy, it doesn't require a vote. It's just a regulation that's being added. The small changes were we added lockers as a location where cell phones can be stored. The original protocols had backpack and personal bags, so we added lockers. They're rarely used at the high school, but they are sometimes used at the middle school. We did remove parking lots at the high school, and then we added on transportation that in addition to what's allowed, that the transportation rules that are in effect for the school year shall be followed, because they may look a little bit different from year to year. We also added some definitions into the regulations for instructional day, which is from the time students walk into the building and until they leave, and then what personal electronic communication device means, and also what the word stored means, off and away. The feedback we have received from our administrators and our teachers have been positive, and we heard the same feedback from our student representative this evening. And so we're adding this information to, like I said, policy JFC as a regulation going forward.
Information on it.
This does not require a vote because it's a regulation.
All right. Next, we have capital improvement plan.
Yes, so this just updates you on what we submit to the county for their 5-year plan. So it's the county's 26 through 30 plan. For us, it would begin in FY 26, which is the next school year. And what we do when we submit these items is that we assign a priority, either urgent, necessary, or desirable, and we turn that in to the county. The CIP committee through the planning department meets this coming November 20th. They review all of the submissions for all county agencies, and then they provide their own ranking to the Board of Supervisors, and then the Board of Supervisors places that on their CIP for the next 5 years. What we do is that the items that we determine need to be added for the FY 26 budget, we'll include that as we start our budget discussions, and that's as a separate item for the CIP. Right now, we are looking at 1 school bus, because we do keep a school bus rotation in place, and potentially 2 rooftop units at the high school and a standby generator at the middle school. And so I'm happy to answer any other questions about that submission. You'll see that on what's in your information here, you'll see that some of the years are marked 26 or 27 or 28, because we're looking at that 5-year forecast and all of our asset management also, and things that will need to be replaced in coming years, which is the purpose of going through that exercise.
All right. Superintendent's report.
All right, I just have a few things to give updates on. Silent No More was referenced this evening. We did have, last Monday, we had presentations during the day to our 7th through 12th grade students, and then we did host a parent night. Although we had more parents participate than the last parent evening we had, it would be nice if we had more parent and community members attend. But it was about drug awareness and the dangers of drug use. There were representatives from the Drug Enforcement Administration, the Federal Prosecutor's Office. There was an anesthesiologist who also works with pain and drug management, and then there was one of the participants was someone who lost a brother to drug use and has started a nonprofit in the Richmond area to raise awareness of those things. They allowed for some time for discussion at the end of the evening. They traveled here from Richmond and stayed until after 9 o'clock that evening to continue to engage those who were in attendance. And so we do have some more opportunities for things like this planned in the future for our community and parents. As also mentioned, next week, Region 3 is sponsoring a legislative breakfast. The Commonwealth of Virginia is broken into 8 superintendent regions, and Region 3 includes 17 divisions from Stafford County all the way down to Matthews. And so we will have our local senators and delegates that comprise all of that area. As you mentioned, we have 2 of our board members attending. And at that time, we will present and discuss priorities from both the Virginia Association of School Superintendents and the Virginia School Board Association, in hopes to bend their ears on things that are important to the school divisions as they go into the next General Assembly session. And then last, in the December meeting, I plan to present some more detailed information on the new school performance and support framework. This is something I've mentioned in previous sessions that VDOE has been working on. They recently have worked on model data using last year's assessment data and what that would look like if we were currently in that framework. It is still not officially finalized, and I'm hoping to get a few more answers to hopefully be able to provide some better information and insight for you next month. So that will be a presentation that I will bring forward at our next meeting. And that is all I have for this evening.
All right, thank you. All right, any old business? Any new business?
I do not, closed session.
Yes, do you have a closed session?
Do you have one in yours,
No.
Dr. Pratt?
No, I do not. Okay. We'll take care of that. All right, can I have a motion going to close?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. We're now closed.
home.
This is my notebook for you that I bring to every meeting.
It should be in mine, but it doesn't help to have one.
You want me to keep it for you, or do you have one? I bring this every
I
time.
know.
Oh, you keep, okay.
I keep this.
All right, well, Kim will have one, you'll have one, and I'll have one, and we'll.
I was thinking
another one
about you, I was
into
like,
the-
it's not light driving home anymore for you.
So if you think I need to keep it dark, give it to me, otherwise.
Here, I've been taking them up. Here, take all my stuff, I don't want it. I'm done.
Could I have a motion to come out of close?
So moved.
Second.
Moved properly second, all in favor?
I've heard taken.
Pursuant to the Code of Virginia's Board, discuss personnel matters and student matters during closed sessions. Matters discussed in closed sessions have been added to the consent agenda and other parts of the agenda as action items and information items. Board members, please certify that only lawful matters were discussed in closed sessions. Please respond by roll call.
Dr. Burnett,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. McMurtry,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Robbins.
Okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Moving properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
We are now adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Dion, are the mics off?